Has IBM finally gotten its groove back? IBM stock went flying today, up nearly 9%. After the company reported a much better than expected quarter. I think it might be the beginning of something bigger than the $13 rally the stock had today. Let me set the scene. For ages, IBM's been trying to offset the weakness in its slowing legacy business, the incumbent business, some could say, with a bunch of faster-growing businesses. Think the cloud, analytics, dubs as strategic imperatives. But they were never quite able to do it, and this led to a string of disappointments, which brings me to last night. IBM delivered a 2-cent earnings beat off a $3.28 basis. More importantly, its revenues came in much higher than expected, only shrinking by 0.4% year over year. This was the strongest revenue beat in 5 years. Meanwhile, gross margin erosions also decelerated, only posted a 40 basis point decline. That's a market improvement. So we have to ask, has IBM truly turned the corner like the action in stock suggests? Let's take a closer look with a man I've gotten to know quite well who is a straight shooter. His name is Martin Schroeder. He's IBM's Chief Financial Officer. Find out more about the quarter and the year and the company's prospects. Mr. Schroeder, welcome back to Mad Money. Good to see you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Martin, have a seat.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Now, I buried a lot of the lead because I wanted to speak to you about it directly right in your eyes. There were 3 inflection points I saw last night. Strategic initiatives, they're almost half the base of the company. You told me that could happen when they were 25%. New mainframe built with encryption, lots of tougher tasks, built for the ages, including cybersecurity. You said that would be released. It was released on time. Third, you said revenues would eventually no longer be down. That streak would be broken. It looks like from that conference call last night, the streak will be broken next quarter. Please walk me through these in order of importance so our viewers know that this was not a one-time only move.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for inviting me on. I do want to talk a little bit about. We'll talk about all 3 of those, but let's talk first about the quarter, because the quarter for us, it looked exactly like what we described. Okay. So we described it at the beginning of the year already. We said that the second half would be better than the first. In July, we reiterated again, and we talked about the drivers of that. You pointed out some of those. Some of those are what I'd call long arcs, like the strategic imperatives and the revenue growth. Some of those are much more near-term arcs, like the announcement of the mainframe. So in the quarter itself, we got a great start to what we said was going to be a good second half. And when we delivered guidance for the near term, for the fourth quarter, essentially we pointed to revenue growth in the fourth. Yeah,
adding $300 to $400 million. That's not small
change. And we now have, for the first time in probably 5 years, a good tailwind in terms of the dollar. Right. So the dollar is weakening.
Right. And thank you, because why that's important is because that's going from a really bad headwind for a couple $2 billion. Now, that's never been your fault, but you've had to live with it. But now it's on your team.
It's on our team. So the dollar is important for us, particularly because 2/3 of our business is outside of the U.S. Right? We have a global platform. Part of the reason people come to us for our services business, and part of the people come to us for our maintenance business, is because of the global platform we can deliver. So yes, huge exposure outside of the U.S. Dollar weakening has always been helpful for IBM, and now we're in, hopefully we're in a longer-term sustainable trend.
Well, this gives me a chance to talk about a lot of people say, Jim, I see those Watson ads. Nobody's using Watson. Whole countries are adopting Watson. This is a national health business that you have, and countries are loving this product, aren't they?
So we learned a lot since we've announced Watson as its own business unit, right? Watson was originally a set of technologies that won the Jeopardy game show. We built a business around it, but it's so much more than that now. And what we learned in the quarter, and we'll talk again about a long arc in a moment, what we learned in the quarter was that companies continue to adopt cognitive. So for instance, Royal Bank of Scotland has now deployed our cognitive technologies, many others. We see it in health. The long arc of this, though, is our point of view on how cognitive will change not only enterprises, but it will change professions. It won't necessarily displace jobs. We've always said that this is not really about automation. It's really, though, about it will change 100% of jobs. There's too much data in the world. Our point of view has always been that you need a good set of cognitive technologies to make sense of all that data, and that's what we're helping our clients do. And the quarter, again, reinforced that we're on the right path.
First is China. They've got millions of people with heart disease and no real way to be able to calculate what could happen until Watson.
Yeah, so as an example, and China's a good example, and we see the power of cognitive is to take what the best in the world can do and spread that much more broadly so that our partners in China and our partners in Finland and in Italy and other places, they're going to elevate the ability of their doctors. They're going to elevate the ability of their medical systems to treat much, much more effectively because they'll have a cognitive solution at their, to help them do that. So it elevates everyone's abilities. And
Martin knows, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's earnings per share, which is what I always come back to when we go over your call. Now, I think it's really important that we talk about cybersecurity, because for a long time you have told me, listen, IBM has a policy of encrypting. And you know what kind of went over my head? I mean, because doesn't everybody have a policy of encrypting? Your new mainframes are somewhat immune and making it so that if a hacker wants to go somewhere, they're far less likely to attack an IBM system. Why is that?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the capabilities of the mainframe. And then I think it's important also...
Which just came out.
So we'll talk also about our point of view, if you will, on security. So first on the mainframe. The way the new mainframe is designed, it encrypts all data all the time, without human interaction, with no application changes, and really importantly, no performance degradation. That's always been the challenge in systems. People would have to trade off performance for security. That's a bad trade to make. That's a really bad trade to make when you look at the price of having vulnerable security. The new mainframe eliminates that. So everything's encrypted all the time. The data is, as you know, worthless once it's encrypted. Nobody can do anything with it. And the mainframe can do that, and that's the big performance enhancement, is that we can do it all the time with no human intervention. So if someone tries to get the encryption keys, the system shuts itself down.
And we have had many companies on this show that have tried to combat that, but you do it, and you win. And they know not to go there, which I think is one of the great selling points, as is the fact that this new mainframe is layered on with the cognitive, artificial intelligence, all the things that you have said. It's not a dumb piece of iron.
Oh, not at all. In fact, when we look at the new uses of the mainframe, for instance, all of our blockchains, we're probably the leader in blockchain by now, because we've done more, again, in the quarter. Our blockchain solutions run on a mainframe because it has the attributes that blockchains need in order to be successful.
Now, I want to point out that Ginny Rometty, when we sat down with her last, said that IBM has had a history, just when people often have thought that it was finished, of completely reinventing itself. Am I being too aggressive by saying that when you guys get to more than 50% of the strategic imperatives, that it will indeed represent the reinvention that can give you multiple years of earnings growth and revenue growth that may be misjudged by the current price, even though it's moved up a lot today?
Well, you know, the third quarter was, again, a good example of the progress we're making. But this has been a journey that we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of money in order to recreate the reason IBM exists.
And a lot of the money may be done spent. You may not need to continue to do this spending, Martin.
I do think from a spending perspective, I think we have the bow of the ship through the wave, if you will, on the growth in spending. So we're going to keep investing heavily.
Right.
But we did have to get all these acquisitions into kind of the run rate of spending so that we can make sure they're fed with the right amount of investment to develop those offerings. But from a long-term trend, you know, we've been investing heavily, and I do think that we've positioned now with a great portfolio, a mix of things that are high value, things that are accretive and good scale, and things that are starting to build like blockchain.
Now, last question. You have a lot of shareholders. You have stressed to me over and over again, as is Ginny, that you speak to all of them. One of them, prominent one, is Warren Buffett. Have you been able to communicate with Warren Buffett that maybe this is a new golden age of IBM and that perhaps selling may not be such a good idea?
Well, I'm not going to comment on any individual shareholder.
Of course not, but I have to certainly try. You understand that?
So, you know, what our shareholders tell us, you know, and we speak to them all. Our shareholders tell us is, look, you guys have reinvented yourself so often. We know what we bought. We bought a reinvention, and we're happy with the business model when you deliver it. So keep working toward that business model. If that means you have to invest, please invest.
Well, I feel exactly the same. Martin Schroeder, honorable man, predicted all these things could happen, kept the schedule, didn't want to come on, I know, until you actually had it, and you do. That's Martin Schroeder, CFO of IBM. Is it a new golden age? Okay, maybe I'm being too aggressive, but is it a lot better than the current price of the stock? Yes. Stick with Cramer. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.